Challengers may be the most electric film of the year. Luca Guadagnino's first of 2 films that are slated to release this year is one that feels very different from the rest of his filmography, at least from what I've seen from it. Cause when you see films like Bones and All, his Suspiria remake, and who could forget the forever iconic Call Me By Your Name, you could tell and see Guadagnino's touch in each and one of those films. All 3 are very moody, typically quiet, and films that aren't necessarily flashy or intense when it comes to its visuals. That really can't be said about his latest film. Challengers takes a majority of Guadagnino's principles in his films and flips them on their head. But a good portion of his core values are still very much intact. This means that at the center of the film, it's still very much about a complicated relationship with complicated humans. The main key difference is how these themes and its story is delivered. At the heart of the film are the trio consisting of Josh O'Connor's Patrick, Mike Faced Art, and of course Zendaya's Tashi. All 3 give stunning and consistent performances, which, if done wrong, could have led to an imbalance in terms of development, where one's left in the dust by the others. But Luca does a great job in constantly progressing each character's arcs, because if one of them didn't pan out like the other 2, this film wouldn't have worked. Much like his previous films, the main tension between all 3 is their complicated, nearly 15-year-ish relationship with each other, built on the basis of the love triangle. But unlike the rest of his filmography, he pushes for a far more intense pace and energy. Across all technical levels, the film is operating like it's on a bunch of the good stuff. Everything and everyone is so incredibly fast-paced, you can feel the film's heart beating throughout the speakers, constantly pushing the limits and stakes higher and higher as the film goes on. And I'll give Luca credit, he directed the hell out of this one, something I really didn't expect him to properly execute well, just given his other films I've seen. You can see the intensity, you can feel it too for each character's love for the game that is tennis. Constant whip pans, overhead shots, shots that follow the ball, shots below the court, 360-degree shots. Everything that you wouldn't think would be in your typical Luca film is very much so here, live and in living color. And it's absolutely incredible to see. I mean, you of course still have your more somber, quiet, and intimate moments too, and they're very much a welcome portion of the film too, because at times it was too intense where they needed to pull back a bit and let the audience breathe, to push higher at a later time. This also applies to the trio's relationship. I caught very early on in the film that when any combination of 2 characters are talking to each other, it's in a shot reverse shot. And as it went on, these conversations got more quicker and the content within the dialogue got more serious. All of this in saying that it felt like it was shot like a tennis match, making Tashi's statement that tennis is like a relationship much stronger in hindsight.
Not a nun, I'm not your mommy.
I'm just asking that you love me no matter what.
What am I, Jesus?
Yeah. How are you gonna look at me if I still can't beat Patrick Zweig?
Just like this.
But while relationships are a core aspect of the film, it's not a very romantic one. It's dramatic, with very complex and, dare I say, manipulative characters that use love, connection, and sex as a wild card for instability in its story, but it isn't a romance film. Challenger sees romance as a currency that's used by all 3 to be better tennis players and to look the best coming out of this complicated situation. And they're very cold and cutthroat when they do it too, making the inclusion of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross's electrifying score much more welcomed. Now, I love the soundtrack for Dune 2, it's fantastic, but the duo's score for this film might be the best of the year. I mean, just listen to some of these tracks and tell me they don't get your heart pumping. All these are great innovations that build upon and enhance the basis of Luca Guadagnino as a filmmaker, but that doesn't make everything perfect. I brought up earlier that while this is masterfully directed, the pacing felt very tiring. I don't know if it was the abundance of time jumps that happened throughout the film and the final match, or the intensity of each match, which there are a lot of, but it just felt too much, even with the sprinkled levity to calm everything down for a bit. I also found it very interesting that, minor spoiler alert, the film is much more about Art and Patrick than it is about their relationship to Tashi. There's a lot more story context, especially in the beginning of the film, that adds to that makes the film much more interesting. And it does help in making it one of the more legitimate love triangles I've seen, so credit to where it's due. All in all, this isn't your typical sports movie, and I think I really like it for that. Not only flipping the genre on its head and making a drama, dark rom-com with a hint of thriller, but for Guadagnino to really push himself as a filmmaker while keeping that sense of authorship that makes his films his. And what comes out of it is a fantastic film filled with incredible performances from Zendaya, Feist, and O'Connor, a blood-rushing, electrifying score, and shot like its life is dependent on it. Luca Guadagnino's Challengers is a multi-genre tennis film that feels like it was directed with the same intensity as a Brian De Palma or Michael Mann film. It holds itself and its characters ever so iconic as the 2000s pop culture Americana it uses throughout the film, and to be honest, I think it earns it. I'm feeling a strong 4 out of 5 on this. Let me know what you thought of Challengers in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.